We go from North America to South America, because in Brazil, the 7th largest country in the world, there is a growing movement to boycott not just Israeli companies, but Jewish businesses. Brazil is run, you might know this, by a leftist president nicknamed Lula. And one of the most influential members of Lula's party, José Genuino, has had this to say last week.
This idea of rejection, the idea of boycott for political reasons hurting economic interests, it's an interesting form of protest. By the way, there is this boycott targeting some Jewish businesses. There are also boycotts to companies related to the State of Israel, and I think Brazil should cut the commercial relations in the security and military sectors with the State of Israel.
I'm joined live now by Kim Kataguiri. He is the Brazilian congressman of the Brazil Union Party. He's also a founding member of the Free Brazil movement. He's joining me from São Paulo, Brazil. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining us. Bom dia.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Also, apologize for any mistakes in my vocabulary or pronunciation, since I'm not a native speaker, and it's a pleasure to talk to you.
No problem. No problem at all. Let's talk a little bit about Brazil. I lived in Brazil. I know for sure Brazil has an extremely large Jewish community. It's the 10th largest in the world. There's about 120,000 Jews who live in Brazil, especially São Paulo. Are they safe right now?
Well, that's not very clear right now. I mean, I would say they were safe like 2 years ago, but right now, I think anti-Semitism in Brazil is rising. You just showed the words from José Genuino, which is a very powerful Brazilian politician, and this is racism. This is openly anti-Semitism. This is a hatred for Jews, something we would not think to live with that in Brazil. Like 2 or 3 years ago, we always thought we were a plural and peaceful community that is open for everybody, that is open for immigrants, that is open for every religion. And it's very scary to see this kind of thing happening in our country. Last week, I filed a legal action against José Genuino for racism. And since we just saw he advocated for a boycott of Jewish companies simply based on the ethnic origin of their owners. And it's kind of the attitude of what we've seen in the beginning of Nazism and other times in history with other races, like in apartheid and also in racist movements in the United States in the 1960s. So it's very scary to see this happening in our country. And I think it's exactly what I just heard there, that the far left and the far right, they meet in the hatred for Jews, and this is also happening in Brazil, unfortunately.
Kim, let's give a little bit of a class as to where Brazil fits into all this, and I'll tell you what I'm looking for from you. The temperature has been this way because of the far left that secured power in Brazil. That Lula, who is the president, is coming from the far left. Give us a little bit of a history lesson as to how anti-Semitism has risen through the left in Brazil.
Well, the position of the left in Brazil puts its own values in question, because it's highly inconsistent for this ideological field that claims, or at least claims, to be a defender of gay movements, women's rights, political and religious freedom, to position itself opposite in the only country in the Middle East where all these values are guaranteed. I mean, I've been in Israel last year, and I can say it's an island of democracy in an ocean of tyranny. So if these leftists that got in power talking about democracy, talking about tolerance, talking about minorities and human rights, they seem not to care about the Jewish human rights. They seem not to care just because they do not consider the Jews a minority. They do not consider the Jews as human beings that should be defended like any other, like they say, they claim they defend, as I said, women's rights, gays' rights, and political and religious freedom, but these do not seem to apply to Jewish people. And that's scary, just because they say, okay, so Benjamin Netanyahu is a far right prime minister, so we should not support any actions of Israel, even if it's just defending itself against a cruel and brutal terrorist attack. I mean, just because of Benjamin's political position, you would not stand for the Jews to defend themselves, to defend their lives. I mean, to me, it makes absolutely no sense.
Ô Kim, o que você tá fazendo aí?
Tô dando uma olhada aqui, ó, no WhatsApp, nas nossas comunidades. Porto Alegre tá bastante ativo. O pessoal tá quebrando o pau. Sempre o pessoal quebra o pau na comunidade de debates. O pessoal do time de
Tecnologia
tá aí ajudando a gente a desenvolver aplicativos. Tem voluntários de memes também. Tem 354 mensagens sem ler. Eu fico até com medo. Tem a resenha da pipoca pro pessoal que fica aí curtindo filmes aí, resenhando sobre o filme que assistiu. Entra aí nos nossos grupos de WhatsApp, que estão muito legais. Tô interagindo aí o máximo que eu posso. Espero que ninguém mande nenhuma mensagem indecorosa enquanto eu tô mostrando aqui as telas dos grupos. É muita coisa. Então você que quiser entrar nos nossos grupos de WhatsApp, é só você entrar no site e escolher lá de onde você é, que você já vai participar.